Welcome to Tentpole Trauma, the podcast where we look at movies that came with hype and high hopes, but left with crushing disappointment, either critically, at the box office, or both. Freed from the weight of expectations, we seek to examine these underperformers under a new light, parsing through the good, the bad, and everything in between with the hopes of gaining a better understanding as to why they failed to find their audience. Warning, there will be spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie that we're discussing today, I suggest you stop the podcast and go watch it. Then when you come back and listen, you'll get more out of the discussion. On this episode, we discuss John Carpenter's Escape from L.A. Okay, I am Sebastian, and I'm here with Jennifer.
Hello.
It's just the two of us again. This week's episode, we are discussing Escape from L.A., which is the 1996 sequel to John Carpenter's 1981 film, Escape from New York. Both films star Kurt Russell as Snake Plissken, the iconic character. It is a character that Kurt Russell based on the Clint Eastwood Man with No Name character. And he is our central protagonist, sort of a badass with an eye patch. Now, I was a big fan of the 1981 Escape from New York. I did not see it in the theater. I saw it on TV. But at the time, and I still am, was really into sci-fi post-apocalyptic stories, and I loved Mad Max and stuff like that, Thundar the Barbarian, and I really loved the character of Snake Plissken, and I really loved Escape from New York. Now, what is your history with Escape from New York and Escape from LA and the Snake Plissken character?
I think you need to correct yourself that you really do love Snake Plissken presently.
Yes, I still love Snake Plissken presently.
Big time.
Yes.
My history, I did not see either film in the theater. Viewings were at home. I can't remember if it was television or VHS. I liked Escape from New York. I also am a fan of Escape from LA. I'm not as much of a fan as you are of the franchise. I guess we can call it a franchise with two films.
Sure, yeah. They have action figures.
And we have action figures of Snake.
Yes, in fact, I'm looking at him right now.
So am I.
He's standing next to my John Wick action figure.
They've teamed up.
For an exciting adventure.
As they do. So yes, not as big of a fan as you are. I do think Snake Plissken is a badass, and I love Kurt Russell so much. He's a delight.
Everyone loves Kurt Russell.
Who doesn't love Kurt Russell?
So, well, despite the fact that I am such a big fan of Snake Plissken, I did not see Escape from L.A. when it came out in theaters in 1996. I was doing other things with my time, and I had friends who went and saw it, and they said it was bad, so I didn't bother to see it in the theater. But I did end up seeing it eventually on home video or whatever, and I've seen it a bunch of times since then. When the film came out, it was not well received. It did very poorly in the box office, so the Escape from franchise was basically killed by the performance of this movie, which was unfortunate because I would have liked to have seen more adventures with Snake Plissken. There was supposedly going to be an escape from the planet or whatever. That was going to be the next movie.
Like that.
Yeah, that would have been fun. So yeah, that was pretty much the end of Snake Plissken. There's been a lot of rumors over the years of them rebooting it, and they just haven't gotten around to it, and who knows if they ever will. But yeah, this effectively killed the franchise. Now, both of these films were directed by John Carpenter. Would you consider yourself a John Carpenter fan?
Yes. I always am up to give John Carpenter a chance with whatever he's doing.
Yeah.
Like even later stuff where it hasn't been so well received, I'm still always going to watch it.
He doesn't do much now except for play music
and watch basketball. Yes, but I mean, later it was, what was the last, like, early 2000s maybe was the what was the one with Amber Heard?
The Ward.
The Ward, was that late 90s or early 2000s?
It was late 2000s.
Late 2000s? Okay. I can't even remember. Time is so
late
weird.
Late aughts, yeah.
But I saw that. In the theater.
Wasn't very good. But he's a legend. We're both big fans of his work, it's safe to say.
And his music.
Yeah, his music is great, and he usually does the scores for his films.
Yes.
He did the score for this one. He's a triple threat, writer, director, and musician. And he's just one of the greats.
We were talking about this the other day, just how John Carpenter is just so on top of what's happening, even with watching Escape from LA.
Yeah.
And when he did, and I was reading, we were talking about when he wrote or came up with the idea for Escape from New York was after Watergate. And he's just, he's just such a smart dude, and just really can kind of read the tea leaves.
There's usually a political message buried underneath the solid B-movie presentation. There's always a point. There's always kind of a subtle or not so subtle message in there.
No, he does it really well.
Yeah. So, and these two movies are no exception to that.
Yeah.
They're very socially minded. There
Yes.
are definite social issues in there that he's sort of trying to tackle, while at the same time just making a sort of silly B-movie premise.
And that's why it works so well.
Yeah.
It's because you're just enjoying the ride, but you're getting the message is there.
Yeah.
You're getting it whether you want to or not, it's there.
Yeah. It doesn't come off as preachy
Not at all.
because he's just such a B-movie guy,
And I think he's so not a preachy guy.
No.
Like, just in general, that's not who he is.
No. To do this episode, we watched both Escape from New York and Escape from LA to compare and contrast them maybe a little bit, or
Compare
just
and
because.
contrast, and then just because it's been a while since I had seen Escape from New York. Not been a while since I've seen Escape from LA, because audience, you should know that film seems to be played more often in our home.
Yeah, there's some shocking films that get played around here more often than their more famous original films.
As a matter of fact, I don't know if you and I had sat down and watched Escape from New York together.
Yes, we did.
Are you sure?
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago. It was like sometime last year, I think.
Okay, well, last year's a blur.
Yeah.
But I just feel like when I think about the Escape movies, I think about watching.
We definitely have
Escape
watched
from LA
Escape from LA more
many
together.
times together.
Yes.
Yes.
But that's mostly because I know you like it more, so I'll throw on that one more. Plus, it always seems to be streaming, and it's always a good Saturday afternoon choice to throw on. But why don't we get into it?
Yes.
Both movies center around this idea that a certain part of our country has been walled off for whatever reason, and only quote-unquote bad people go there. In the case of Escape from New York, it's the city of Manhattan, and everybody who's there is a criminal. In Escape from LA, it's the city of LA, and everybody who's there is just undesirable.
Yes.
They've all been deported, basically. And one thing we should say about the two movies, which is very apparent when you watch them back to back, the first movie has a sense of humor, but it's taking itself pretty seriously.
Yes.
Whereas Escape from LA, there's definitely a element of satire going on,
Big
where
time.
it feels almost as if it's a parody of Escape from New York. So it's much campier, it's much broader, and I think that was why people rejected it so hard when it came out, because I think what Carpenter was doing was, rather than just trying to make a straightforward sequel to Escape from New York, he wanted to just do a satire, like a straight-on satire, and he wanted to basically remake the movie as a satire, which is kind of what he did.
It is what he did, and I think that may be why it's more fun to rewatch that one.
Yes.
I also think with all satire, it's hard to stick the landing. And,
Yeah.
it's like not everybody's going to get it or like it.
Right.
Just because it's, especially as you just mentioned, diehard fans of Escape from New York, like that's what they wanted to see that done in
Right.
LA, which I totally get that. I'm a fangirl of many things, and it's sometimes it's hard to allow the franchise to be something else.
Right.
So I get that, and I think you're probably spot on as to why it, like you said, you had friends that went to see it, and your friends were probably fans
Yeah.
of Escape from New York.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, naturally they're going to come out from watching Escape from LA and be like, that sucked.
I think I would have been in the same boat had I
Yeah.
seen it at that time. I would have felt the same way. And I'm sure when I first saw it, I would have agreed with them that it was bad. But over the years, because I've been able to get some distance from it, I've been able to sort of reevaluate it and see what it's doing cleverly.
Well, I think it's when you're watching something like that for the first time, and you've been so jazzed to have a follow-up to a movie you really like a lot,
Yeah.
then when he's doing something different, it's like you can just kind of see, if you were like in a theater and you're just kind of able to observe people in there, you can see like this does not compute
Right.
type thing going on. Like, I don't know how to feel about this.
Well, and there's definitely moments in Escape from LA where Snake Plissken does things where I could see really having a problem with it upon first viewing. But why don't we sort of get into the plot of the movie? Both movies take place in what is now an alternative reality, because the first movie took place in 1997. It was a film that came out in 1981, but it took place in the futuristic world of 1997, where Manhattan had been turned into a prison. And our hero, Snake Plissken, who was some sort of army guy, special ops dude, but who has become disenfranchised with the system and now he's a criminal, is coerced basically into going into the city of Manhattan and rescuing the president from the city. And the city of Manhattan now is a post-apocalyptic wasteland that is ruled by gangs of crazies, and the main antagonist in the city is the Duke of New York, A number one, played by
Isaac Hayes.
And Donald Pleasance plays the
president.
and he's amazing in it. It's a very fun movie. It's very B-movie, gritty. It's not particularly slick in any way, but Kurt Russell is really great and iconic in it. He really, makes Snake Plissken a memorable character. And, there's other actors in it like Harry Dean Stanton.
Ernest Borgnine.
Ernest Borgnine as the cab driver.
So good.
Who's so much fun. And there's
Adrienne Barbeau.
It's a great movie. If you've never seen it and you like sci-fi, post-apocalyptic stuff, highly recommend it. It is probably not as big and grand as movies now in terms of sci-fi and special effects. The special effects in it are very low budget and a little dated and cheesy, but they're kind of endearing. And if you like model work and stuff like that, Escape from New York is really enjoyable to watch. Escape from LA, unfortunately, came around at the early days of CGI, and it is definitely struggles with its budget in regards to the CGI, but we'll get into that. So we have this character of Snake Plissken. He's an anti-hero. He doesn't give a damn about anybody, and he keeps getting roped into these situations where he has to go into these places and save somebody or retrieve something from a post-apocalyptic war zone.
And the stakes are high in both because in addition to being propositioned to go and in Escape from New York, he has to save the president.
Yes.
And in Escape from LA, he's trying to retrieve this black box, but it's more than that. And they're offering him like immunity from anything he's ever done. Like that's kind of what he gets offered in both. But more than that, in Escape from New York, the same thing happens in LA. Essentially, he gets like shot with a virus.
In Escape from New York, they put these little explosives into his neck that are going to blow up and kill him if he doesn't come out within, I don't know how many hours.
I can't remember what the time
It's like 9 or 10 or something like that, 12. In Escape from LA, they scratch him with a virus, a neurotoxin that's going to basically kill him in 10 hours or whatever the time limit is.
So that's, again, because as you said, Snake gives zero fucks.
Yeah.
It's not about getting the immunity or any sort of like, I'm doing a good thing for the country. It's about saving his skin.
Yes. There's no altruistic heroism to Snake. He's just doing it because he has to.
Yeah.
And he's distrustful of these people for good reason, because always the people who are handling him are terrible. In the first movie, it's Lee Van Cleef, who's awesomely awful.
Yes.
And in the second movie, his handler is
Stacy
Keach. And what the situation is at this point in the future, which is, I don't know what year it is. It's 2013, I believe.
Right. They jumped to 2013, yeah.
Yeah. So at this point in the future, America has been basically taken over by a president who's a religious fanatic. And the reason why he's taken over is because he predicted a really bad earthquake that actually happened, which cut off Los Angeles from California. So everyone got behind this terrible president. Mm-hmm. He's outlawed all these types of freedoms.
Everything.
You can't drink, you can't smoke, you can't have sex.
Unless you're married.
Yeah, unless you're married. He's a religious fanatic.
Yes.
And his daughter, who is played by A.J. Langer. If you ever saw the show My So-Called Life, she was the best friend, right?
Rayanne Graff.
Yes. Who's a fun presence, I feel.
I love her.
Yes, she's very endearing. But she plays the president's daughter. And
Utopia.
Utopia is her name. And she has sort of, what's the name of that? Patty
Hearst.
Patty Hearst.
She's gone rogue.
Yes.
Like she took over the plane that kind of a similar thing happens in Escape from New York, except it's not the daughter. It's somebody on the plane in Escape from New York.
Yeah.
Hijacks the plane.
Yeah.
With the president on it because he was on his way to Connecticut or something, and that's why they end up in New York.
Yeah. The funny thing they do in Escape from LA is she's been spending all this time in virtual reality, and she's fallen in love with Cuervo Jones.
Yes.
Who is this revolutionary, but who is also a sort of guru-y type character for her. And he is played by Georges
Carafas.
Yeah.
It's a French-Greek name.
Yes.
And we're butchering it.
And we apologize to Georges. If you're listening, we're really sorry. This actor, he's definitely playing a sort of Che Guevara type. He's good. He's charismatic, but he's an actor that neither of us have seen in anything
neither
ever again.
Before or again. And he's fine in this role. He's great. I mean, he's a handsome guy, and he's charismatic, and he's a total creep and power crazed, and he gets the job done. But I don't know.
The escape from movies always have an antagonist who's in the post-apocalyptic environment, but really the antagonist is always society and whoever's in control of the government. That's the real bad guy.
The real big bad.
So you would think that since Utopia has stolen the plane and crashed it into LA and fallen in love with this revolutionary, you'd think that the president would want Snake to go in there and get Utopia and save his daughter.
Nope.
But the president is such a dickhead And he's played by Cliff Robertson, who, he's just the worst. He's the most uncompromising, unflinching religious zealot. And he doesn't care about his daughter. In fact, he wants Snake Plissken to assassinate her. But she has this black box case that has this device in it that can basically control all the satellites. It can do a lot of things, and they explain a lot of different times what it does. But basically what it does is it can control all the satellites and send the missiles to whoever they want or whatever. It's a big doomsday device.
I'll say this. That black box is well more explained and more important than the cassette tape.
Yes.
that is in Escape from New York.
Yeah. And
with the nuclear fusion on the cassette tape.
Yeah, point to Escape from LA. They came up with a much better MacGuffin than Escape from New York. In Escape from New York, it's a cassette tape that has some sort of information on it about nuclear fusion
to this conference or something. Right. And it's like, but why was it on a cassette tape?
And why would this be the thing that determines the fate of the world?
It just doesn't make sense. I mean, we were struggling over this.
Yes.
Like last night. We're like, why would, I mean, a cassette tape is like something you need. Like if he was getting inspired by Watergate, like I get the tape type element.
Yeah.
But it's because you were getting recordings of shady shit going down, and it was important to get that, information out. Like this is like, what is this, a lecture about nuclear fusion?
I wouldn't think the world would be hanging in the balance about a nuclear fusion lecture.
Cassette tape.
Yeah. But so Snake has basically got to go in and get this box that has this device in it that can control satellites. That's his mission. So he's been injected with this virus. He gets a cool new leather outfit. Snake usually is wearing a leather jacket with a black shirt and the sort of gray camouflage pants. That, to me, is the Snake Plissken look, and he's got an eye patch, of course. That's his signature look. But in this movie, they sort of give him a more updated costume. He's got like a long leather coat, and he's got leather pants and a black shirt. You liked his new costume.
Well, it sounds so accusatory.
It kind of is.
We're going to have words about this. I like Snake's iconic outfit. However, I do feel, they needed to maybe do something different. And he is wearing his kind of iconic outfit at the beginning of Escape from LA. And then they give him these fancy new duds. All I said was, those are some bitchin' duds. And you said you like that better.
Stacy Keach's right-hand woman, this sort of severe-looking actress who ended up being in Battlestar Galactica, I forget her name, don't have it in front of me, she comments that Snake's look is kind of retro, and so that's why they have to give him a new look. And I didn't really understand what she meant by that, because people weren't looking like that in 1981.
People weren't looking like that ever.
No.
Anyway.
The world would be a better place if they were.
They're sure if there were more Snake Plissken fashion around. But no, I just felt like he had this outfit was just slick. It was like, and it's functioning, like functioning fashion too. Like it was like some sort of like flame retardant or something like that with the coat. And he just looks very like much more post-apocalyptic, like what you might have in your mind of like what that looks like as far as like maybe kind of post-apocalyptic Western feel.
Well, ironically, he looks sort of like the outfits in The Matrix.
I was thinking The Matrix too, but
this came out 3 years before. Okay. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. This predates The Matrix.
Yeah, it's totally like The Matrix outfits.
Yeah, he's got the kind of Keanu Reeves-y look.
Long coat and...
So they hook him up with this new outfit. They give him all of these kind of James Bond-y gadgets, one of which is pretty important because it's a device that can project holograms. So you can make a hologram of yourself and project it somewhere. Scientifically speaking, it makes zero sense. These things could not exist in real life, but
I don't care.
It's a sci-fi movie, so we'll buy it.
Well, and they're big on holograms in this too.
Yes.
Like we already, like, before we even get his new outfit, he's already like dealt with like 3 holograms.
Yeah. His handlers have got him in this room and they're giving him weapons and stuff. and he tries to kill them, but they're holograms.
Yeah, I thought it was great because he's like literally going down into this like chute or something. He's like, and he's got the gun, and he's like, who's gonna give me the antidote later? Because he's got this virus or whatever. He's like, is it gonna be one of you guys? And they're like, no. And he's like, they're like sprays them. Well, that time they were people. It was the time before that he tried to kill them and they were holograms.
Yes.
But then that time they were people, but they had given him a round of blanks because they're on top of shit.
There's a lot of tricking in these movies, whether Snake does it or whether his handlers do.
A lot of one-upping.
That's right. So they hook up Snake with these weapons and stuff, and they put him in a submarine, and the submarine is sent off into the water to Los Angeles. In Escape from New York, he comes into New York on a glider, and he lands on the World Trade Center, RIP. But in this, he has to go underwater in a submarine. And it's a fun sequence in concept because he's going underwater and he's got to go, like he goes over Universal Studios and the Jaws shark, and we see certain Los Angeles.
Well, there's like the highway like direction signs and stuff for the 101,
right?
Or saying it is good in concept. It looks it looks kind of
it looks terrible.
Well, it does, but it kind of looks like it was almost trying to do almost like comic book type style at that point, like because wasn't around this time was A Scanner Darkly kind of. Was that later? Mm-hmm. But that's kind of what it reminds me of, like what it's trying to do, which Scanner Darkly does it way better.
I think you're being very kind. I think what it is CGI that was just badly really done because they didn't have the kind of budget that would have gotten them good CGI.
Okay.
I mean, first of all, it's 1996, so CGI is pretty new at this point. We'd had the Terminator and we had Jurassic Park. And I just feel like John Carpenter was thinking big and he didn't have the budget he needed to make it look decent. And it really looks bad. And unfortunately, CGI ages worse than model work or whatever. Yeah. Like if they had just done it like they had done the original Escape from New York and done it with models, it would have aged better.
Yeah.
The special effects in Escape from New York are just as cheesy. But because their model work, which we found out done by James Cameron before he was a big-time director, but because they're models, they look so much better. And unfortunately, there's a bunch of scenes in this movie that are, in my opinion, marred very badly by very bad CGI. You're more forgiving of it than I am, but it's hard for me to look at it because it just looks so bad. It looks like something you would see in a video game in the late 90s.
There are parts later in the film that definitely did not age well, but I don't know. I'm not so hard on this entry into LA.
You're not as much of an effects snob as I am.
This is true.
So Snake arrives in LA. He comes up from the water, and one of the first people he meets is a surfer dude played by Peter Fonda.
So great.
And Peter Fonda's surfer dude recognizes him, and he makes the joke, "I thought you would have been taller," which is a running gag.
Yep.
Needling Kurt Russell for his height. Mm-hmm. Because although he's not Tom Cruise small, he's not as tall as you'd think he'd be. Because Kurt Russell has such a kind of commanding, heroic presence. Yes. He's got the jawline, and he's just
and the hair.
His hair is beautiful. Although in this movie, I can tell that he's wearing extensions in the back.
You would be able to spot it.
I am really good at spotting wigs. His hair is his hair. They've just put extensions on in the back, so he's got longer hair. It's fine. He looks good. Yeah. He's older at this point, but he still looks really good. He still cuts a heroic figure, Snake Plissken. He's in good shape. Although we did notice his cobra tattoo that he has on his stomach when he's changing had faded.
That's what happens.
From the version that he had in the original.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah. Anyways, so he meets Peter Fonda here, and this is a relationship that's going to come back later. Peter Fonda directs him to Mulholland Drive. So he's walking along Mulholland Drive.
Well, this is just one of the most fun things about this film. It's just seeing him navigate his way through post-apocalyptic LA.
Yeah.
Through, a landscape which was something that we all fear who have lived in LA, that the big one is coming, and what does that look like?
Yeah.
And if it looks like this, holy shit.
Basically, he goes into Hollywood.
Yeah.
We get sort of a look at what Hollywood looks like in this post-apocalyptic setting. And we should say that there's aftershocks that happen all throughout the movie.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Sort of conveniently placed because they get him out of some jams at some point. But he just walks through Hollywood and we see all the crazy characters that are out. Honestly, it doesn't look that much crazier than Hollywood can look sometimes. But, there are lots of S&M costuming and playing a lot with the sort of stereotypes of gangs, like LA gangs. There's like sort of Hispanic gangs and black gangs.
Well,
and
there was that whole scene when he goes into what looks like was maybe the Palladium or something. It's some sort of theater off of Hollywood.
Yeah.
Where it's like a sex club or something, but it's like, he's making some sort of statement about safe sex and stuff too, because it was, I can't remember what it was, but there's a signage up about it because that was obviously a time where that was a huge concern.
Right. Well, it says like safe sex, no condom.
Or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think they're playing on the idea that in the normal society,
right, everything's
so strict.
Yes.
You get to do what you want here in post-apocalyptic LA.
The whole reason he is guided to this place is because he's supposed to find his site contact or something, that somebody who's there undercover or something like that. So they're able to track this person. So that's how he's like being led to this area. He's got some sort of tracking device, and Stacy Keach is tracking the person too.
Yeah.
And so he comes in and he finds the guy who's like pinned on a wall, like he looks like it's like a bullseye or something, and people are throwing knives at him for fun.
Yeah.
And one of the people who are throwing knives at him for fun is none other than Robert Carradine.
Right, yeah.
Which
Revenge of the Nerds.
Yes, which boy does he have his revenge, because I've never seen him be like so gnarly. Like, I mean, it's a caricature, it's cartoonish, as far as his, but he's got like a shaved head and like a neck tattoo, and he's like, wearing like a tank top, and just, he's this burly, gnarly dude.
Yeah.
It's so not
a nerd.
No. And I think that's it's great. So Snakes, reports back to Stacy Keach and is like, he's like, did you find the contact or whatever? He's like, and they're using him as target practice. That's a bust.
So then he goes down Hollywood Boulevard and he runs into Steve Buscemi, who is, what's the name of his character? Eddie, I
think it's Eddie.
But is like he's like Map to the Stars Eddie.
Yeah.
They're playing on this idea of people who sell star maps. But he's basically just a hustler, fast-talking type. I can get you this and I can get you that. And Eddie has a recording device, which is exactly like the one that Snake is going to find in the black box. And on this recording device, Eddie has his sort of promo recording where it's his star tape, where you go around and follow it to the star maps.
Kind of like a walking tour.
A walking tour, yeah.
Yeah.
And like, I love LA is playing on it. And he's like, this is your map to the stars. And, Hollywood isn't functioning now, but it's still a place of glamour and stuff like that. It's funny. And Steve Buscemi is his amusingly skeevy, sketchy kind of guy. I mean, he's going pretty broad. It's pretty cartoony even for Steve Buscemi, but I mean, he's Steve Buscemi, and
he's great. And he's telling Snake, you need to have you're not going to be able to find your way around without one of my maps. He's like really trying to get him to take this device, and he's like, I'll sell it to you for $50,000, and so Snake just blows him off.
So Snake gets a tip from a random character to go to Sunset Boulevard. And when he gets there, there's this big parade going through, and Cuervo and Utopia are riding on this like what is it, like a Chevy or something?
It's like it's a red Cadillac with
A
all
red
these
Cadillac, yeah.
doll heads.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. It's got doll heads like all over the thing.
And basically, Cuervo's telling everyone that they're going to take over the
Yeah.
world or whatever, and they're going to meet at the Magic Kingdom, or they call it the Happy,
Happy
Kingdom or whatever.
Yeah.
We see Cuervo and we see Utopia, and poor AJ Langer is wearing this really skimpy outfit, and you can tell she's really uncomfortable. Yeah. Like in cold, probably.
Well, but I think it's also supposed to, I mean, yes, I think she probably is uncomfortable, but I think it's also supposed to be the character, because the character, when we saw her hijack the plane, she's coming from the Bible thumping president family or whatever. Like, she was in like this pink, like, power suit or something, like Pepto-Bismol pink. Like, it just kind of feels like she's uncomfortable because now she's like completely sexed up.
And so Snake goes after Cuervo. He grabs some dude's motorcycle and goes after Cuervo. And we get a motorcycle chase where he's chasing after them.
How he gets on the bike is he just goes and like it's two people on a motorcycle, and he goes and just throws the guy off the back, like literally he just throws him, and then like he just like punches the other one or something that's driving. Like it's just it's just great.
We're treated to this sort of motorcycle chase. It's not particularly well done, but it's fine. There is one really sort of egregiously terrible shot where he jumps up to the back of the Cadillac or whatever, and it's just this terrible special effect that looks awful, some sort of CGI effect. Snake is unsuccessful in capturing Cuervo or Utopia, and they get away, and so Snake is sort of left on his own at this point. And then he meets this character played by Valeria Golino.
Mm-hmm.
She's just sort of a random woman who's trying to survive out in the
through Beverly Hills.
She's wearing a really obvious wig,
yeah.
which I don't know why they felt the need to give her such an obvious wig, but it's kind of a distracting wig. She's just sort of kind of a love interest, but for
it's
very brief.
Well, because her time is very brief.
Yes.
This is one of my favorite parts of the film.
You worked for many years in Beverly Hills.
In different jobs, yes, I did.
Different jobs.
Yes.
Did you feel that this was a accurate representation of Beverly Hills? Would there be an apocalypse?
I could 100% see things going this way if there was an apocalypse. And yes, it's not, and I love that it's like not a place that people can get through.
Yeah.
Like it's just this total like dangerous place.
Yeah, it's like the worst place.
It's the worst place, which was great because it's, that's so not what it is now.
But it kind of is.
It is. No, I know it is, but
it is the worst place.
Yes, but it's it's seen as being safe.
Yes, it's not physically the worst.
Right. Whereas now, and I know Carpenter's just having a field day with that because it's just. Now it's dangerous. Like, and so we have Snake like kind of hiding in the bushes, and that's when he meets the lady.
Yeah.
And she's like, just stay down. Like they're just doing their first sweep of the night or something. And then we see like these spooky hooded kind of trench coat. Mm-hmm. Like it looks like something out of Star Wars almost or something.
They look like the hooded creatures in Omega Man.
Yes. That's exactly what they look like. Super creepy. And Snake doesn't want to listen to her because Snake does what he wants.
Yeah.
And
he's on a mission. He
is on a mission.
Done.
He is. He doesn't have time to screw around because he's got this clock on his hand that's reminding him of his demise. And so then of course, he like stands up and they're taken over.
They shoot them with a net gun.
That's right. Yeah. So they're immediately captured. Yeah. And
they're brought to this lair in Beverly Hills run by the Surgeon General of Beverly Hills. But before we meet him, they're tied to these like operating tables that are like lifted up so that they're standing upright. But while they're waiting for the Surgeon General of Beverly Hills to arrive, they're being attended to by these plastic surgery victims.
Disasters.
Yeah, and the makeup is really well done.
Oh, it's so great.
I mean, it's cartoonish, but
it's supposed to be. I mean, it is.
I mean, I don't want to sound rude, but I've seen people with faces very close to some of these people. these servants of the Surgeon General, but they're like carrying around trays of like eyes and skin grafts and stuff like that, and they've all got these sort of like mutated faces. And Valerie Golino is explaining,
what goes down there, that these people were horrible victims of plastic surgery, and the only way that they can continue to live is to like get fresh parts that they just keep putting over and over. Like it's such fun, like as far as just like letting your imagination go with like what could happen with like with like where could the worst of plastic surgery go. I really appreciate it. And I also have to mention that this whole lair is in like the ruins of the Beverly Hills Hotel.
Oh, okay.
Which is this fun throughout the film, is to see like, landmarks of LA and things that we would see driving around all the time or whatever. And
just to clarify, these are all sets. They're not they didn't shoot in any of these places. No. In fact, I don't think any of this was shot in LA at all.
No, they did some shooting in Long Beach. But they also shot in Texas. They did do some stuff at the LA Memorial Sports Arena on Figueroa. They shot in Miami. They did shoot some at the Universal Park. Yeah, the Los Angeles Theater downtown LA. So they did. But yeah, so it was like LA, Florida for whatever reason, Texas, and then some other parts of California, I guess. Yeah. So we're there with the nurses, and then we get to meet the Surgeon General of Beverly Hills. Is that what he is? Yeah.
Surgeon General of Beverly Hills, yes. And he is played by B-movie superstar Bruce Campbell.
Yes.
And he is wearing awesome prosthetic makeup that makes him look completely insane. Bruce Campbell is famous for being in the Evil Dead series, the Sam Raimi Evil Dead series, which I'm sure everybody listening to this knows and doesn't need me to tell them. But he's pretty great in his brief scene. And his face is all puffy and weird. And the part I like the best is his hair, which looks like doll hair. Mm-hmm. You can see those sort of like doll hair sutures in his hairline, and it's great. And he's just so over the top. He fixates on Snake's one good eye, which is baby blue eye of Kurt Russell's. And so he's going to carve it out of Snake's head, but Snake has procured some sort of blow dart gun. I think
it came with his setup,
right?
Because it looks like it was kind of like a pill capsule or something.
Yeah.
So he had that all along. It's just, I think it was all of his gadgets.
I just didn't track that gadget, but he's got some sort of little mini blow gun thing that he pulls out of somewhere, and he shoots it into the Surgeon General's forehead.
Yes.
Basically incapacitating him. And when he shoots it into his head, the Surgeon General, like, his hand goes flailing with his scalpel, and he cuts Snake loose conveniently.
Yes. Well, and what's so great about this too, again, this scene is just so much fun, is like no one fights back. Because it's all like, these are just, none of these people are tough. These are, people that were getting plastic surgery and lived in Beverly Hills, So it's like he grabs the Surgeon General, and I think, he has a gun or whatever against his head. But like everyone's just doing what he says.
Yeah.
He's like, because I cannot remember the character's name, the girl.
They don't say it very often.
But she says it like once. Taslima?
See, I would not have known. If you'd held a gun to my head and told
Taslima.
me, I would have never guessed that name.
Valeria, whatever. Yeah. Anyway, but she's like, hey, because again, Snake just being Snake, and Snake's on a mission, and it's not that he's a bad guy, but he's just like, well, gotta go. She's like, can you free me?
Yeah.
Like, I kind of love that about his character. It's like, hey, I'm still here.
Yeah.
So then he tells, one of the nurses or whatever, like, cut her loose. And they just do, because that everyone's just being complicit.
Yeah.
And yeah, so they escape from the Beverly Hills Hotel, and then they're being chased by the hooded folks.
So they escape Beverly Hills by going in these underground tunnels, which are very well lit for underground tunnels, but the Taslina character or whatever knows of these tunnels, and so she's leading him to I forget where they're going.
I don't know where she's taking him to, but she's like giving him the whole lowdown about like what it's like to be in LA and how it's actually not so bad and it's
Right.
better than like that they're actually free in LA and everyone else is in prison.
They've come back above ground at this point. She's trying to get Snake to take her along with him.
Or she also has offered him to come shack up with her.
That's right.
She's got a place where it'd be safe because the UV index is going to be terrible, so
Right.
they could like take shelter.
So she's hitting on him, and there's sort of this moment where we think, oh, maybe they'll shack up, but Snake's like, no, I gotta take care of business here. That's when
That's when she says like it's not so bad here, like it's actually we're free here. You just need to know your way around and
yeah. And right as she's sort of ending this speech, she gets shot
yes.
and killed.
Yes.
So, and she's dead.
And they're shot by, and there's other people that are there too, and it kind of looks like they're in like a junkyard or something, kind of like that.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly where they're supposed to be. I mean, there's just like a lot of cars and stuff around, like abandoned cars, but they're shot by like these kids.
Right.
Like it's just like literally a drive-by. Like there's no like it's not Cuervo's people or anything. It's just like these like young kids that like get back in a car and take off. Like it's not related to anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the wild, wild west of apocalyptic LA.
That's right. So she dies, but Snake lucks out because Map of the Stars Eddie comes along and offers him a ride. And he tells Snake that he's going to bring him to Cuervo or whatever.
Well, he's in like this slick car.
Yeah.
And it's not the same car that Cuervo was in because that has all the babies' heads.
Yeah.
This is like another red Cadillac that's really slick. And so Snake gets in and he's like, good thing I found you. I didn't think you would make it out of Beverly. No one makes it out of Beverly Hills alive.
Yeah.
And then he says, I'm going to, I'll take you to Cuervo and all this stuff. And he's like, I'm his agent. I could be your agent. He's just doing all this slick talk. And then he shoots Snake.
Yeah, with these sort of drugged darts from
I think he called them fun darts.
Yeah. they're hidden in the dashboard of the car.
Yeah. And shoots him like right kind of in the boobs.
Yeah. So Snake is knocked unconscious and taken prisoner. And so Snake wakes up in custody of Cuervo Jones.
Well, this is great because he wakes up there and he's like handcuffed and stuff, and you can see Utopia is there and Cuervo and Eddie and his crew and he's gearing up to do some sort of live broadcast about what his plan is and what he's going to do because he has the black box and everything.
It's basically an FU to the president
of
the United States on broadcast TV or whatever.
But what is even better is there's random treadmill in here.
Yeah.
And so he like chains Snake to the treadmill and turns it on.
Yeah.
So when you get this shot of, Cuervo giving this manifesto, like off in the like right-hand side, you see Snake lumbering along on the treadmill.
But, hijinks ensue. Snake breaks free at this point. Does he have the box with him at this point? I don't think he does. Right?
No.
So Snake breaks free and he escapes into the sewer, but Utopia, who has at this point realized that Cuervo's not a nice guy.
He does have the box. You're right. He does have the box. Yeah, because he grabs the box, jumps down into the sewer.
Right.
And then she's trying to go with him. And then Steve Buscemi shows up.
Right. She's trying to go with him. And so he pulls the gun on her and he's going to kill her because that's what the president told him to do. But he can't do it because he's really not a horrible person. And she's begging him to take her with him. But Steve Buscemi has crept into the sewers with his own gun. He takes a shot at them. He hits Snake in the leg and Snake drops the case. The black box case. Mm-hmm. And Snake jumps down a river hole type of thing and gets away. But Steve Buscemi gets the case and brings that in Utopia back to Cuervo.
Mm-hmm.
So then what happens is Snake is washed up in this sort of trench, sort of valley or whatever, and waiting there is Peter Fonda as the surfer dude. he's waiting to catch a wave because there's been these aftershocks. So now there's a tsunami coming. He just happens to have a spare surfboard
He has several surfboards
in his dune buggy. And Snake has got to catch up to Cuervo, who's driving away in his car with Utopia and Steve Buscemi. And the quickest way to do that would be to catch this tsunami.
That's right.
So Snake gets on a surfboard, and the tsunami wave comes through this trench, which is running along the 5 or something like that.
Yeah, it's running along a freeway.
Yeah, it's running along the freeway. And so we get this scene where Snake and Peter Fonda are surfing, trying to catch up to this car, which is driving next to the trench or whatever. And it's pretty hilarious. This is the moment where I think if I had seen this in the theater in 1996, that I would have been like, no friggin' way.
This is exactly what I was just going to say. This is the moment in the film where you go one of two ways. You either lean into the ludicrousness of this film and just like go, this is what we're doing. Because like, it's been pretty crazy up to this point, but this is like that point in a film where you're like, you're either with it or it loses you. And you being a super fan, if you would have seen it in the theater at this time, like this would have been like, I'm done. Yeah. And I totally get that. But like me not being that, seeing it, like I was like, yes, I was like leaning right into it.
It's made a little bit harder to stomach by the fact that the special effects in it are pretty terrible. You can clearly tell that they've shot some guys actually surfing on some wave, and they've just sort of
superimposed.
Yeah, they've just sort of superimposed it. And, but you can tell it's not Peter Fonda or Kurt Russell. And then they cut to the close-ups of them where they're clearly not really surfing. They're just standing in front of a green screen or something and then having water thrown at them or something like that. I mean, it's just really silly. And it's strange. I mean, they're playing sort of like pseudo surf music. But, you know, now that I've lived with this film for a long time, I accept this scene and find it funny and amusing. But it's definitely the point that
it's the deal breaker.
It's the deal breaker.
And I am 100% here for it. I just am. I don't care. I don't care that it looks like shit. I don't care. I think Carpenter doesn't care. Like, I think it's just like, this is what we're doing. Yeah. And this is how we were able to do it. Oh, well.
Agreed. I mean, you know, like I'm saying, I've come to accept it.
I know.
I mean, I don't know if I'd say I've come around to it. I've accepted it. It doesn't make me die inside like I think it probably did when I first saw it.
Yeah.
And had I seen it in the theater, I would have turned on the movie 100% at this point. I won't deny it.
He leaves the beach, and then he catches up with Steve Buscemi again because Steve Buscemi's like, oh shit, because he shot him, and he had told Cuervo that he killed him. But Cuervo had said, like, you need to go find him.
Right.
Bring me back his head.
Yeah.
And so he's driving along this freeway or wherever they are, and Kurt Russell Snake comes surfing up next to him.
Right.
And gets in the car, and, you know, there's a whole thing, and they end up going to this basketball game or something like that, this weird...
So in the first movie, there's a scene where he has to fight a guy in like an arena. And so this is like a replay of that in a sense, only instead of fighting a guy in an arena, he's got to do this basketball challenge where he's got to score 10 points, but he's only got 10 seconds for each point. 2 points a basket, no 3-pointers. Yeah. So Snake is basically running back and forth on this basketball court that's in an open air stadium in front of, like, I don't know, all of LA or whatever.
Well, and it should be noted that when he pulls up, like, we see somebody like throwing a basketball and then just get shot like execution style. Like, you know, it's just everybody's cheering. Everyone has guns and they're cheering. And this, like, we see like this guy get dragged away and people come out and like kind of sop up the blood.
Yeah.
And then, you know, Snake's thrown into this. Something to note of this, Kurt Russell made every single one of those shots.
I believe it because you can see it in the shots and there's no trickery. You know, every time he does a basket, he's getting more and more tired because
it's fucking hard.
It's hard and he's dying of this virus or
whatever
whatever.
it is. Yeah.
So his shots get crazier and crazier, further and further away. And the final shot he does basically
Half
from
court.
half court.
Or is it full court even?
Full
He's
court.
like at
No,
the
it's
other.
a
Yeah,
full
he's a full
court.
court shot.
He does a half court shot and then he does
It's
a full court shot.
Yeah.
And it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
He makes it. And I'm sure they did it a zillion times or whatever, but it's a real, you can tell it's a real take and that Kurt Russell really did it.
I was just reading this. It was on Reddit or something, but it was saying that like he practiced because he wanted to be legit about it. He wanted him to actually be making all of these shots, and he just practiced like crazy.
So he basically beats this challenge, and he thinks he's going to escape, but Cuervo isn't going to let him escape. He's going to shoot him.
And Utopia is really upset because she's like, "You can't kill him. You know, like he did it."
Yeah.
And he was like, and everyone's like chanting his name. They're all Snake, Snake, Snake. Like everyone's just. It's getting out of Cuervo's hands.
Yes.
So that's why he has to try to kill him. So Snake realizes they're not letting him out because this is this court is like in a locked chain link fence. So he starts to scale the fence and Cuervo starts shooting at him.
Right. And then there's an earthquake, I believe.
Another convenient earthquake.
Another convenient earthquake that gets Snake out of the mess, but he manages to grab Eddie along with him.
Well, because he's trying to find, I don't remember how it comes up, but he hears about Hershey.
Yes.
I don't remember who tells him about Hershey.
Eddie does, or somebody does.
Somehow he knew I can't remember how whatever, it doesn't matter. He needed to go find this person named Hershey. And then Eddie was like, oh yeah, I know Hershey. And, you know, that's who got me set up when I first came to LA. And like, you know, they know everything and blah, blah, blah. So Eddie is supposed to take him to meet Hershey.
Yes. So they go to meet Hershey at Hershey's lair, and Hershey is played by the great blaxploitation actress Pam Grier. She is a trans character in the film. They've done something to her voice so that it's modulated to sound lower. I think it probably is a little problematic by today's standards.
Well, I mean, I think it's because they were originally known as Carjack.
Yeah, she's Carjack Malone or something
like that. That Snake had worked with them before. Yes. And so Snake just won't like call her Hershey now, which is...
he's using her dead name. That's the term.
Oh, wow.
Now he's dead naming her, which I think trans people would have a problem with in the context of the movie, because he recognizes her as before she was transitioned and she was known as Carjack Malone.
Yeah.
And she skipped out on him
they have
at
beef.
some previous
history.
time.
Yeah.
And so he just keeps calling her Carjack,
right.
And she's like, call me Hershey, damn it.
Yeah.
But he won't. So that's the element of it that's problematic by today's standards, that he just keeps dead naming her.
Yeah.
But she agrees to help him because Cuervo's a maniac and wants to take over the world or whatever.
Right, and I think he was also promising her...
that he'll get her out.
He'll get her out, but also he promised her money.
Right.
Which he was like, I'll get you $1 million. And she was like, greenbacks? I've got them here. He's like, no, they're bluebacks.
Right.
He said that the president told him whoever helped him, he would give them this money, which is bullshit. But he's just trying to get her on board.
But they have a problem because Cuervo's already heading to the Happy Kingdom, and he's going down the 5, and he's got a big head start, and Snake only has like an hour left to live. So the only way they can get there in time is to fly there via these hang gliders that Hershey conveniently has stashed up in the Hollywood Hills by the Hollywood sign. It's a ridiculous conceit because there's no way you could ever hang glide from the Hollywood sign to Disneyland. But
you know what? Maybe you could in post-apocalyptic LA, and the Santa Ana winds are gnarly.
Yeah.
And that's what they're banking on, is that the Santa Anas are coming. And you know what? Maybe they're even worse than they are like in present day. And so, I'm
willing to go with this one.
I'm going with all of it.
Yeah, sure. No, it's absurd, but I'm okay with it. And it's fun because they're hang gliding all the way to the all the way to Anaheim from the Hollywood sign. So our big climax takes place at the Happy Kingdom, which is clearly supposed to be Disneyland.
Yep.
And as they're sort of hang gliding into it, Snake notices like the castle or whatever and is like, is that what I think it is? And Eddie's like, yeah, it went through so many different hands because of that Paris thing really ruined it. And that joke is very dated, but appropriate because at that time, that's when Euro Disney happened.
Okay. Yeah.
And Euro Disney was a huge bust.
Yeah.
So the joke is that, haha, Disney did so poorly with Euro Disney that now it's just called the Happy Kingdom and it's some rando like amusement park. Ironic now because Disney owns everything in the world.
Yes.
So that didn't happen.
Disney had the last laugh there.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just basically this big battle between Snake and now his army, Hershey's army, and Cuervo's army. There's lots of flying around and dropping bombs on the Cuervo's people and them shooting. There's a big helicopter that they're trying to get to.
Yeah, and was that set up at the beginning?
It is, but it's just one of those things that's just passes over you really quickly.
Because that is how he ends up, you're right, that ends up how he clinches the deal with Hershey.
Yeah.
Because he's like, I'll get you out.
Yeah,
with this helicopter.
There's going to be a helicopter there to pick him up and bring him back.
Right.
That's how he's going to get back.
Yeah.
And it's, this high-tech helicopter that's got rotor blades that pop out of the top or whatever.
And it's bulletproof and all of that. Which, going back to, not that I'm going to pick this film apart at all, because one, I enjoy it, and two, like, I just can't. However, it's kind of at the beginning when he comes in his submarine, it's like he's really worried when it falls. Remember, like, that part of, like, he like kind of lands on, like, part of the freeway or something, and it breaks off, and there's like rebar everywhere.
Yeah.
And Stacy Keach is even like, what happened to the submarine? And he's like, it's gone.
That might be when they establish
there's going to
get you out with a helicopter.
Because I'm like, well, who cares? If you're going to get picked up in a helicopter later, you don't need that.
It's just a plot device because they want an exciting way to get him out of L.A. They did the same thing with Escape from New York, only he's got to climb up a wall. Right. It would be boring if he just went back to the submarine and went back.
I don't care. Yeah. I don't care at all. I just was just thinking about it. Yeah. Anyway, so, no biggie.
Yeah, there's this sort of high-tech helicopter that they have to get to. They fight their way to it, and Eddie and Snake and Utopia is escaping with them now. They get in the helicopter, and it's just at one point somebody ties something to the helicopter so they can't take off.
They tie a car to it.
But Hershey blasts the rope off.
And they do have the black box. That's important to know. They did get that.
They get the black box at this point. So they've got everything they need to escape. But Eddie shoots Cuervo, but Cuervo's still alive. And he's got like a missile launcher. And he missile launches into the helicopter, and he must kill Hershey.
Oh, yeah, they all like are on fire in the back. Like the whole back row of people is just
in flames.
Yeah, and I think Steve Buscemi falls off.
He falls off. Yeah. He doesn't get out.
That's right. He's still alive. He just falls off.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Hershey and the crew that they're with in the back are completely just engulfed in flames.
And you don't even get a shot of them or anything.
Just flames.
They're just gone, which is sort of unceremonious. No. They're not even mentioned.
Nope.
It's just, they're just flames now, I guess.
Oh, well.
But Snake and Utopia they crash land the helicopter back on California soil. They're just off in this like field somewhere. Mm-hmm. The president and Stacy Keach and the other handlers all show up, all the military and everything. But before they show up, Snake stashes the little he stashes the transmitter thing in Utopia's clothing. So we think at this point he has that one, and he also has Steve Buscemi's same sort of recording device. So there's two of them. So there's going to be some sort of switcheroo. But it's set up that he put it in Utopia's clothing without her knowing.
She didn't know.
But once the military shows up and everything, they're all sort of confronting Snake, who's just standing there on his own. But Stacy Keach, or the president, figures out that Utopia must have it, and they pull the thing out of her clothes. So they believe they have the right device. And the president is like going to execute his own
Yep.
daughter with I guess a portable
Little
electric chair they have.
Gotta always have one of those around.
Right. So he's going to do it all on live television, and like Cuban forces or something are moving in to attack the country
within
because minutes. Yeah. So, the president's like, I'm going to blow everyone up or whatever on live TV. And he takes out the device and presses play on it or whatever. And of course, it's Steve Buscemi's
Map to the Stars and I love LA, we love it, and all that.
It's a gag. He has the wrong thing.
Super pissed, and he wants to kill Snake. And again, Stacy Keach is like, "We're live, sir," or whatever, and he's like, "I don't care." And so they turn like full brigade of guns on Snake, and they fire away, but
Snake's not really there. It's a hologram. He's fooled them with their own device they gave him to project him as a hologram.
A snakeogram.
That's right. He's a snakeogram. So he's somewhere else. He's not there. And he's got the actual satellite device. And he's not going to use it to shoot the Cubans.
Nope.
He's not going to use it to shoot the U.S.
Nope.
He's going to enter in the special code that they explained.
They
Leland Orser explained
That's
it.
right. Oh, I forgot to mention
Leland Orser, one of my favorite character actors of the 90s and 2000s.
Yeah.
Married to Jean Triplehorn.
That's right.
Anyway, he's a very minor character. He didn't play into it much, but he explained at one point that there's a code 666 that basically is an EMP that shuts down every electronic device in the world forever.
Yep.
Which is totally implausible. There's no way there would be a device that could do that. They'd find a way to get the grid back up. It wouldn't be forever. But anyway.
Don't try to find
logic
and escape from LA.
It's highly implausible
that
such a device would shut down everything forever. Humanity would band together just to get their internet back, if nothing else.
This is true.
Like that would be the thing that would get everybody to get on the same side. Just take away the internet. Then we'd see fucking unity.
It could really unite us.
Yes. But anyway, Snake types in 666 and he basically shuts down all the world. And the last thing we see is he finds a pack of cigarettes.
Well, we also see AJ Langer, Utopia, stoked because
she's not going to be electrocuted. There's no electricity.
Yeah, so she's really happy about that. And then, we see, as you said, Snake finds I think American Spirits.
Yeah, well, they're not really American Spirits.
No, they don't. But
that's what they say on the package.
Yeah, it doesn't look like them.
Yeah, he's been wanting a cigarette the whole movie,
time,
and nobody will
keeps asking for a cigarette.
Yeah, so now he's got a cigarette. And he smokes his cigarette and blows out the match and says, "Welcome to the human race." Which, okay, I don't know why that's the last line. But a fun shot. Now, he looks right in the camera.
Oh, yeah.
So it's, this iconic shot of him looking at the camera. So that's Escape from L.A.
Sure is.
How do you feel about it now after seeing it again for the 17 millionth time?
I still love it. I think it's so fun. I get why it didn't do well. I get why it wasn't well received by fans of Escape from New York. I totally understand. I get it. But I just think it's a good time. It's just fun. And effects and everything else be damned. Like, it's a fun film, and it's goofy, and you just have to suspend all rational
thought.
Yeah, and that's okay.
I am there with you for the most part. I definitely do not begrudge anyone who is a big fan of the original, as I am. If you hate this movie because it shits on the original in your mind, that's totally valid. It's totally okay. I got your back. But like you, I love the character of Snake Plissken so much that I'm happy just to have more of him, however I can get him, even if it's a parody. I feel that Kurt Russell does great, and he doesn't disrespect the character.
No.
It's not like he's making fun of the character.
Not at
He's
all.
playing it as straight as he
Absolutely.
always does. We should note that he had a hand in writing this because He's famously quoted as saying that Snake Plissken is his favorite character of all the characters he's
He
portrayed.
also got a producer credit too.
So he had a real hand in this movie, and I think it shows. I think he clearly cares about it.
Yeah, and this was also produced by Deborah Hill, and she was one of the writers as well. So it was like there was love for this film. Like they wanted to do this. Like this happened because they wanted to revisit this character again, and
Yeah.
they just did it how they wanted to do it.
Well, like I said, I think that the only angle that Carpenter really felt he had was to do the same thing again, because all the beats are pretty much the
Yeah.
same, but they're done way more over the
Exaggerated.
top
Yeah.
and campy.
Yeah.
It leans into the campiness. And I think the problem was that most people who are fans of the original didn't really see it as campy.
Well, I mean, I would say the same thing for the Evil Dead trilogy.
Right.
Like people, I love Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, but I freaking love Army of Darkness.
Yeah.
And I know that there's people who are diehard fans who don't really feel that way about it.
Well, but Evil Dead has the advantage of the first movie is
yes.
serious, the second movie's
movie is-
not.
right.
So it already established a tone of
And for
of
whatever
that.
reason, it was able to keep its fandom
Yeah.
with those. But you know what I'm talking about. There's people who really do not like Army of Darkness.
No, I get it. Yeah. No, there's a certain point where I think, if you're a fan of something, you're taking it seriously and you can't laugh at it too much. There's a give and take there. You can enjoy satire of it, but you don't want to see it go full joke.
Right.
So I get it. I also think that the problem with the movie not doing well is that the original movie was a cult hit,
Right.
but it wasn't like a big giant blockbuster. And I think they maybe thought they had a bigger fan base for a sequel than they really did. I think that most people just didn't care about this movie, or they didn't want to see it. So,
Well, and because it kind of lost whatever fan base it did have from being this cult status of a film.
right. And it was many years.
16
1981.
years later. No,
Yeah,
it's
by
15
that
years
point-
later. Yeah.
By that point, nobody gave a shit.
Yeah.
That's
It's
the
a
problem.
long time.
They would have had to have really had knocked it out of the park with a sequel that everybody loved. That would have worked. But because they chose to do sort of a satire, I think a lot of people were turned off by that. So it didn't have good word of mouth. It wasn't like it was that expensive of a movie, but it did really poorly even for the budget that it had. So, and the reviews were terrible and all that. So nobody got it at the time. But I do feel like it has bumped up its estimation a little bit. You're not alone. There are a lot of people who have come around to this movie who didn't like it to begin with. I mean, myself included, but I feel now it has a better reputation than it did then. Like it's kind of becoming a cult classic in its own way, where people are like, hey, Escape from LA is actually pretty fun if you're willing to give it a chance.
And that's
So-
exactly what it is. It's fun because, of course, Escape from New York is the superior film. I
Yeah.
know that. You know that. Everyone knows that. I mean, it's the better film.
Mhm.
But Escape from LA is just more fun. It's like it's just like you said. It's like we've watched that one more together. Like later, just because it's just fun to have on and it's just a wild ride.
And it's a good movie to have on if you're not devoting your full attention to it, where you can just kind of pop in and just something crazy will happen, like the Surgeon General of Beverly Hills scene will happen, or the hang gliding scene,
or the surfing scene.
Yeah, it's more digestible as like sort of like a Saturday morning cartoon experience where you just sort of have it on and oh, that's funny. It's fun in that way. Whereas Escape from New York, you want to pay more attention to it.
Yeah. And I think too, I mean, for myself, and I mean, I know you were born in New York, but you didn't ever live there. I mean, and I've visited there several times, but I mean, we lived in LA for decades.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's just more fun to see the city in that way. And I always think too, I'm like, wow, it's a lot easier to get around this way.
Well, I'll say this about this Escape from LA sends up LA more than Escape from New York sends up New York.
Yeah.
Like Escape from New York has New York landmarks and things in it, but Escape from LA is like making fun of Los Angeles specifically in many ways, you know, from the Beverly Hills thing to the surfing thing to the basketball thing.
Sure.
Like the fact that he plays basketball is just such an LA
well,
thing.
and the thing that he says too when like they're chanting Snake is I think it's Steve Buscemi that delivers the line where he's like, they love a winner, you know, LA loves a winner, this town loves a winner. Yeah. And it's just, it's like they totally are getting all the beats, but it's done in a loving way.
Yeah.
Like John Carpenter loves LA.
Yeah. Totally.
You know, it's like
that's where he lives.
Exactly. And it's like, you know, that's it's definitely, you know, making fun of the town, but you know, in a loving way.
Yeah. All right, well, I'm going to go shoot some hoops and get some plastic surgery and hang glide to the Magic Kingdom.
I'm going to hang 10 to the 5 freeway.
Well, sounds good. That about does it today for Tentpole Trauma. If you like what you heard, check out our social media presence on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Just look for Tentpole Trauma. That was easy, wasn't it? If you like us, hit subscribe and leave us a sterling review on iTunes, if you dare. If you really like us, head over to patreon.com and get involved in one of our fabulous tiers. You'll be glad you did. Want to communicate with Tentpole Trauma? Send an email to tentpoletrauma@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. And who knows, one day you may even get your email read on one of our shows. Well, thanks for listening, and we'll see you real soon.